Okay, so make sure you have your spec sheet ready in front of you so you can make notes as we go through this presentation. So we're going to be looking at the movement of substances across membranes, focusing on simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion and osmosis, which are passive processes, and then active transport and bulk transport, which both require energy. Diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. It does not need metabolic energy, hence why we regard diffusion as being passive. It simply relies on the kinetic energy of the molecules. Simple diffusion is exactly that, simple. Molecules simply diffuse through the membrane without needing proteins to help them to do so. Think about the types of molecules that you think could do this. Larger or fat insoluble, so polar molecules, cannot undergo simple diffusion. They can't dissolve into the membrane, so they need a little help. Proteins in the membrane, either carrier or channel proteins, facilitate the movement of molecules down their concentration gradient, hence why we call this form of diffusion facilitated diffusion. We are still talking about a passive process, so no metabolic energy is spent in facilitated diffusion. Have a quick read of this slide. You may have noticed a slight wording change. At A level, we talk about water potential. We will look into water potential in our next lesson, but put simply, water potential looks at how free the water molecules are to move. On the right-hand side of the diagram, so on the right-hand side of the membrane, there are more solute molecules. The water is less free here to move. This causes a lower water potential on this right-hand side. On the left-hand side, there are less solute molecules, so the water is more free to move, giving it a higher water potential. Because we've got a water potential gradient, water will move from left to right by osmosis, crossing a partially permeable membrane, of course. Active transport is the movement of substances against their concentration gradient. Therefore, we need to use ATP, energy, and carrier proteins. As a molecule binds to its complementary carrier protein, the carrier protein will change shape, moving the molecule across the membrane against its concentration gradient. Some cells need to transport molecules that are too large to fit through the membrane. Bulk transport allows the movement of these molecules using ATP. Due to the flexibility of the plasma membrane, membranes can change shape to surround and take in material from the outside. Taking in materials in this fashion is called endocytosis, and this is shown in the top diagram. The lower diagram shows a cell releasing material. A vesicle containing the substance to be transported across fuses with the membrane and releases these contents. As the substances are exiting the cell, we call this exocytosis.